And I think you'll probably have to. Greetings. This is Heidi Klein, your Level Up Coach, and I am here with another one of my conversations with a coach. And I'm super excited today because I am here with my friend Coach Nicole, and we are both wearing red because it is February, and Fridays in February we're wearing red to talk about heart health. So I will let Coach Nicole introduce herself.
All right, well, thank you so much for having me, Heidi. My name is Nicole Kirksey, better known as Coach Nicole at CoachNicole.com. And I teach women to lead, work, and serve using their God-given gifts without apology. And part of my work also is working as an adjunct professor in the field of healthcare administration. My training and background is in public health. So I really have a passion in helping women to be as well as we can be and as whole as we can be in our bodies and our minds and our spirits. So I'm stoked to talk about heart health and whatever else comes up for us today.
Right. Great. Excellent. Well, like I said, it's February, and February is Heart Health Month. And so we've been talking all month about ways that women can protect their health and be aware of how heart health for women is different. And I know that heart health is across the board for women is the number one killer of women. And we don't talk about that enough and talk about stress and the issues around stress that contribute to that. But February is also Black History Month. And in this conversation, particularly, both Nicole and I have some interest in the areas around race and racial justice. We have talked a lot about how white women can elevate the voices and support Black women. Nicole, if you just tell me a little bit more about heart health, specifically for women of color, and kind of the systems that you see in place, excuse me, that contribute to issues there.
Right. So I like, Heidi, that you mentioned that for all women in the United States, specifically in all of the developed world in general. Heart disease is the number one contributor to early death for pretty much everyone. If you break it down racially, white women and Black women are at higher risk than women of Asian descent and Native descent. But all women are at much higher risk than we know. One of the reasons why we have like the Go Red for Women campaign and raising awareness around heart disease is because on average, about half of women don't know what you just mentioned, which is that heart disease is the largest contributor to early death for most groups of women. We are more aware of things like breast cancer, which impacts 1 in 8 women overall over a lifetime. And a lot of that, frankly, is just marketing. This is what we need to know. Just because something is right in front of us doesn't necessarily mean it's the biggest threat to us. Many threats to us have not been advertised. Some of them are unspeakable. Some of them we don't educate ourselves about, don't educate our communities about. Some communities, information is kept from us, and so we're not aware, which only increases our risk. And so for disenfranchised communities in general, Black and Indigenous and other communities of color, that's always an issue. And heart disease isn't any different. So, for example, let's just take heart disease. I just mentioned that about half of women don't understand and don't know that heart disease is our number one killer, just for short term. But among African American women, the estimate is around like 35 or 36% of us. Only about 35 or 36 of us are aware. So that's 2 out of 3 Black women who don't have any idea that that we're at higher risk of dying if we do have heart disease or heart conditions, and how that impacts us overall. Plus, you have heart disease that's, heart disease and certain heart events, strokes, and heart attacks are often called silent killers because it's sometimes not often until a woman is dead that you even realize that she had chronic heart disease or uncontrolled high blood pressure, because sometimes we don't have symptoms. You're looking for something that's just really chaotic and out of the ordinary in your life to indicate something is wrong, when in reality we have to constantly monitor as we go along to make on a more preventive level, primary prevention to stop things from occurring, secondary prevention to catch things early and treat them, or tertiary prevention to, once we have a condition, to make sure that we are treating it as effectively as we can. So you see all these layers. There are problems in the system at all of these layers, specifically for African American women. And so unfortunately we continue to die.
Right. So let's just like start at the highest level, like for all women. Like what are the few things that you would put highest priority to know about yourself, or to find out, or to help us be more aware of our own situations?
So I'm gonna go deep. I'm gonna go deep. If people know of a Dr. Shaniqua with a C, she's everywhere online at Dr. Shaniqua. She has an interview with Jen Hatmaker, I want to say, on our podcast maybe a year or so ago, talking about self-care. If you can grab that, that's very helpful. But she speaks really eloquently, specifically about Black women, but I think it's true of several groups of women. I want to say older women. I want to say immigrant women from around the world. I want to say women working class and women who are struggling to stay out of poverty. That we're so not in touch with our bodies, we have accepted pain, discomfort, and other symptoms as normal. And it's not so much we are in denial. It's literally like we are so unaware that we don't realize that it's not normal.
Right.
Not normal. Dr. Shaniqua says she started on this, she's been on like a 17 or 18-year path for self-care, but she said she was going to get diagnosed with something, and a Black male doctor had to literally take her from head to toe and ask her questions about her head, her eyes, her nose, or whatever. Because if you say, well, how have you been feeling? Oh, I've been feeling great. But, how has your head been feeling? How has your nose been feeling? How has your throat been feeling? We have to stop and first of all, give ourselves permission to do that for ourselves on a regular and routine basis. Number two, give ourselves permission to tell ourselves the truth. To tell ourselves the truth. Think about if we were the woman we love the most, our daughter, our mother, our granddaughter. Would we want them to hide something like that from us? Or would we want them to say, this is I don't know if this is normal, but here's what I'm feeling. We have to give ourselves permission to do that. And we can support one another in doing that. We can stop doing things like saying, oh, girl, that's not a big deal. Oh, you're feeling dizzy. Well, I feel dizzy all the time. We do that to each other to encourage each other to keep going at whatever it is we're doing, to keep working, keep serving, keep giving. But at some point, we might be out of time, depending upon what's going on for us. And we don't want to, leave this world more early than we have to, simply because we're not in tune to what's happening for us. So I personally think that is the first thing that we can do before we even talk about things like having a regular schedule of going to the doctor. I think it is, my eyes are watering up to talk about how we take for granted, like you should go to the doctor regularly. Well, think about what it takes for a woman to go to the doctor. How many people are you taking care of at home, and how much time does it take? I used to go to a doctor in the hood. My doctor's visits were like 5 hours long, like every day. He had everybody waiting forever. One time I went, I was there 2 hours before he even showed up. Okay, this is not unusual. So even to get there, it's that kind of stuff. How, transportation is an issue. How many days off work do we have to get? What's the quality of care that we're getting? is somebody taking that kind of time with us to head to toe us and ask us how we're feeling, or are they just processing us for it? If we get prescribed some medicine, are we able to get it? Can we afford it? When we're taking it and we're having side effects, do we feel empowered enough to call our doctor and ask for something different? Do we even know if it's normal or not? And can we do that all year long? Because it's not a 1-year thing. We're not, 15-year-old boys. We don't get like one physical. You know what I mean? You got to go to the gynecologist, and you get 40, you're supposed to go for mammograms, and then don't have a condition and have a specialist. Like, I feel like I spent like 10 years at the doctor, like quarterly, like whatever the month was, I spent all month at the doctor.
Right.
So all these kinds of things pile on one another, and the more disadvantaged we are, call it that, the harder it is for us to maintain that. And so we have to, again, give ourselves permission, and we have to figure out ways that we can support each other to get closer to that ideal where we are giving ourselves all that permission to rest and to honor our bodies and to seek medical care, not just traditional medical care, but also non-traditional or complementary or other processes that we feel comfortable with, and staying on top of it and making sure we're dedicating resources and time to that, and prioritizing our wellness and being willing to get educated. Because the other piece of that too is sometimes I think we don't want to know. We don't want to know.
Right.
Because we're scared.
I love hearing this from you, because I don't think it's what people expect. Right. So when somebody logged on to this and said, I'm going to listen, and they're expecting to get 5 little tips, but get in touch with yourself, sister, is not a little tip, right? Like you said, it's going deep. But it's so necessary, and it's necessary for all women. I think that the culture, I'm thinking a little bit now, we're recording this right around the year point of the pandemic with COVID-19, and the way that society has failed women in this. It is women who are losing their jobs. It's women who are bearing the brunt of educating children in their homes. So you have that added layer of just the stress of everything going on, and then not being in touch. And
no outlet, no safe outlet.
I'm going to ask you again, though, because you gave us a great big thing, right? So where do we start with that?
So let's start at a safe cerebral place. I don't know how safe it is. We're going to go deep on this too. The differences between Black women and white women, let's say in particular, is not race, it's racism.
Right.
Until we can get our minds around that, we're going to have problems. Because if you say, well, you probably feel like that because I know your people like a lot of fried chicken, and you guys eat really bad, and y'all don't exercise, and y'all don't go to the doctor, and so that's why your health is bad. If that's our attitude, it's probably something from Africa, something that makes your body different, that makes you more susceptible to everything that's out there. We either get it more often or we die from it more frequently when we do get it. That's the statistics. That's because of discrimination. So take off a hat that says my sister's different from me because she's of a different race, because a lot of race is just plain made up. What's the saying? Race is not real, racism is. But we've all been taught that race is absolute and racism is imagined. And that's just an absolute lie.
Right.
So I think that's the first thing that we can do. And so, sisters, we need to be serious and understand when we're talking about any kind of health, how our community is at greater risk. So I think that's the first thing. And I think the second thing is we have to do a little bit of investigation about how we ourselves individually are at risk. The thing about heart disease in particular is everybody thinks they're at low risk because it depends on so many things. Again, it's silent. So a lot can be going on inside of our bodies we're not aware of, but also we don't know the history of our families a lot as closely as we do. And there are certain communities where there's just stuff you don't talk about. You don't really know if your grandma, your great grandma has high blood pressure, or you might know if they have sugar or diabetes because things happen and they, amputations and things like that. But a lot of things that happen to us, we don't really tell our family members. It doesn't come up at Thanksgiving or Sunday dinner or, the family reunion. So a lot of risk we're not sure of. So we have to really do some digging and some investigation into our family history and into our own history. We have to sit with our doctors and just say some stuff. I'll take a quick detour by what I mean. That doesn't have to do with heart disease. My doctor asked me if I wanted the shingles vaccine. And I told her, I flung my hair. I was like, I don't need a shingles vaccine because I've never had chickenpox. Now, she said, okay, we'll take this other vaccine. And she gave me some other stuff. That hurt too. But what I have since learned is that even if you never had chickenpox, and even if you're inoculated against chickenpox, you are still at risk of getting shingles if you are over 50. She didn't tell me that. And if she did, I wouldn't have listened anyway. But I didn't realize the risk. You know what I mean? So I'm walking around like, oh, you poor people with shingles, not knowing I need a shingles vaccine. And so shingles is miserable, but to my knowledge, it's not life-threatening. It's just, and then you have a whole other issues. But I'm saying, think about that for every disease. And now we're specifically talking about heart disease, which is the major killer. We're walking around like, I'm not at risk because nobody in my family has that. And I don't have that. I don't have high blood, and I don't have. Whereas in reality, if we just take a few more steps, we may learn that we are at higher risk than we believe. And perhaps there's some things that we can do to prevent, or to get some diagnostics to see where we really are. So that would be the second thing. And then I think the third thing, and maybe this is most important, and maybe we could do this first, is to make sure we have support. Like, this stuff is hard to do. I just want to acknowledge that for anybody. Like, I'm a cancer survivor. And I was like, I was shocked. I was like, oh, this must be somebody else's stuff because nobody in my family has cancer, until I found out that all my father's sisters have had cancer.
Right.
Things we don't talk about in our family.
Things we don't talk about.
Right. So thank God God sent me a sister to go with me that day. But we need sisters with us all along the way. We need a squad, a group of women. We have sisters, your daughters are lucky enough to have 4 sisters, they hardly need another friend. Like, just hold on to each other because we're all finding out the same information. That's bonus,
Right.
But have somebody along the way with you so that you don't have to do this kind of stuff by yourself. It is hard. And it's hard to stick with it. You find out something scary, you don't want to continue. You need somebody to say, girl, let's find this out and let's deal with it and let's move forward. Believe that it's going to be okay no matter what it is. Deal with it so that you know, and that it's not this secret hanging over your head that could kill you later on too early. Don't, let's just deal with it.
Right.
So get people who love you, people you trust, people who have your best interest at heart, and you can do the same for them. You can do the same for them. And I think that those 3 things, I think, will get us very, very far.
Well, I want to say thank you. I want to honor our time a little bit and keep these in bite-sized chunks, but I can tell already that a conversation with Coach Nicole will need to happen again in the future. I can think of several topics to talk about as we go forward, but I just appreciate your willingness to be here and to share with us, and we'll be sharing your connection in the comments related to this video, as well as some of the resources that you mentioned. I just want to thank you for being my friend, for being willing to come alongside and have these conversations. And I look forward to learning alongside you and bringing our people with us to learn alongside us too.
Amen. Thank you, Sister Heidi, for having me. and letting me
You are very
wear red.
welcome.
Can I show you my cool shirt that I have on? I'm red today. My shirt says.
Appreciate. I love it.
Love it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks again. And we look forward to bringing Coach Nicole on to conversations with the coaches again in the future. Again, I'm Heidi Klein, your Level Up Coach, and with Coach Nicole Kirksey here.